Guys, welcome back to video number 2. We just got done yesterday with video number 1 on these Icon Generation 2 locking flex head ratchets. And if you haven't seen it, go ahead and go back. I'll put a link down in the description below, but go back and watch the video on this first one. I'm going to try not to go over too much of what was already explained in these. I went over a lot of the tech that's in this that I liked and disliked. But I want to go ahead now in this video number 2. Hopefully we'll make it all the way through with both the 3/8 and half-inch drive ratchets. And I'll go over all of the benefits, features on these ones, what makes them different than this one, and also how they are internally and if it's worth your time. We'll go over price, how they compare to Generation 1. Is it something that you guys should be considering? We'll go through that here right now. First off, let's do the 3/8 drive. This is the packaging it comes in. As you can see, part number, not that. Part numbers actually be here on the back. Item number 70446. Let's go over what's inside the box here. Actually, before we get too far, I mentioned this on the previous one, and it's going to be the same issue, I think, with this box. As you can see here, they have the anvil poking out the backside here. Now, the downside of that is if you stack these on top of each other, either laying inside of a cabinet where you lock them, which my Harbor Freight does, or if you hang them on the wall, like so, there is a good chance that this is going to rub on the backside and scratch up your ratchet. I don't know why they did that. We'll go more in the carrying case here in just a second, but I think it was an oversight on their part. Now, going over what's on the backside, of course, we'll start first with Taiwan. They make all of their Icon stuff in Taiwan, at least the majority of them, and that is a good thing. Taiwan makes really good tools. Now, it says it has a fully sealed head to keep debris out and extend life. That is true. I imagine it's going to be the same as this one. If you haven't seen this one, we'll go over it here and tear this one apart and let you see for yourself. It has an 80 precision machine teeth. That is down from the previous model. We'll put that one in here for you. Gen 1 was up to 90 tooth. Now, word on the street is that although the 90 tooth was great, it gave you more tighter arc swing. Long term, apparently they were having some issues with them lasting. So 80 seems to be the popular number, and that's pretty popular with a lot of other manufacturers too, keeping them down near the 80 tooth mark. Durable nickel chrome moly gear for superior strength. I did notice on the 1/4-inch drive that gear does look a little bit better machined, a little bit better quality, and well, I guess we'll see with that with time, but I do appreciate that they've done that on these ratchets. Hardened pawl engages 7 gear teeth for greater torque and durability. They do claim that. It seems to be pretty much on par for me. I don't see anything greater out of it, but they seem to be pretty happy with it. And you got your chemical resistant TPV grip. And as you can see here, you have that rubber overmold TPV and your harder plastics here. So we'll talk about that as well. It is definitely a little bit softer than the previous gen. This one's a little bit harder in feel, although it is still somewhat tactile. But this is noticeably softer. And as always, lifetime guarantee. Have a problem with it, take it to our Harbor Freight. They'll swap you out for a new one. Now this is 14-inch locking flex head. And it talks about the split-pawl. You know, I don't know what they're necessarily mentioning there, and maybe you guys could clue me on this split-pawl, but to me it's a single pawl, and maybe it's because they're attempting to split it a little bit in the middle so it tends to like hang up on one side versus the other as opposed to a full uniform. I did notice that difference, but I don't know if that qualifies for split-pawl. I'm happy to hear your guys' thoughts. This locking head is going to lock in 9 positions, so it gives you 132 degrees worth of range back and forth. And it claims to have an ultra-strong flex joint that holds ratchet head securely in position. We'll take a look at that. Let's pull it out here right now. We don't need this in the package anymore. If you watch the other video, I'm not a huge fan of this package, and I'm not a fan of this at all. It's a waste of space. So I would chuck it if I was you, but if you want to use it for organizing in your toolbox, you could definitely go that route. Now, I didn't go over this as much on the previous one. We'll go back to 1/4-inch real quick, just so you guys could see. The pin diameter appears to be the same for both. So they aren't increasing the strength on the 1/4-inch. And now when you look at the 3/8, that is the same as well. The fork's a little bit thicker on the Gen 1. But as far as the actual screw going through, or bolt as you might want to call it, I do like that they used a larger hex versus a small Torx here. That allows you to actually tighten it up a lot tighter without breaking your tool when you're doing it. And then here's some more specs on the 3/8 drive. We'll go over to our measurements just to make sure, but total lengths, locking positions 9, increments of 16.5 degrees, and non-locking range of 180 degrees. And we'll check, I believe it went further on the other one than 180. Yeah, it goes past it in both directions. So I do like that. And we went over it in my other video too, but if you look inside here, you can actually see that there's multiple teeth that engage. You see down inside there. I like this design because it engages not just 1, 2, but it looks like 3, maybe 4, but at least 3 teeth are engaged at any given time, which gives you that increased stability in the head. And so you're less likely to break it or slip off a fastener. So that's a safer technique than, say, some of the others. It might just be a single tooth count that grips. An example, and I actually really like this ratchet, but we'll use a gear wrench here. There's appears to only maybe grab 1 or 2 at any given time. You can see it down inside there. So you lock it, and then you actually watch it. The thing that flexes is actually the locking mechanism as you put pressure on it. So not as bad design, but I think this is a better design. Also worth noting too is I love that for this style, you do get a little extra bulk because it pops out. I do like that this is flush once it's locked. There's nothing protruding. That is a great design. But I do think that this is better in the fact that as you lock it in place, you unlock it, and it is free flowing. And there's no riding of the teeth, because what happens with the gear wrench and other ones similar to this is when you unlock these ones, the teeth's gonna ride on those ridges. And with time, you're gonna start wearing this out. And it's just natural to it. It's a friction-based system. And you're also stuck with whatever position it locks in. You can't get halfway in between and want to use it, because it won't be able to stay in that position. So you are stuck to whatever is preconceived with this ratchet. This one, you can get any specific spot you want, not lock it in, and just go to town. And then if you need to, you can lock it in to whatever the closest one is and run it from there. That is a great technique and a great addition to the Gen 2 icons. You may ask yourself, well, is anything the same from the previous gen? I'm going to tell you, absolutely nothing is the same. Yeah, the selector switches are different. I do like that these are low profile. I don't like, however, if you look here, there's a lot of free-floating selector switch versus this one, and this one's thicker. So I would be worried long-term if you're going to snap that off, if you throw it on the floor or hit it on something. And we'll measure the head and everything else here in just a minute. But overall profile is slimmer on this one. Let's see what it tells for thickness. Even thickness, substantially. More so than the 1/4 inch. It is thinner in head profile. They use a different plate here. I also like that they've used larger screws. So you're not going to break off as easy your Torx bits. And then let's do overall length. Let's see what you guys see here. The icon Gen 1 appears to be just a little bit longer overall. Yes. Ever so slightly. We did a test on the last one. Let's see if they take the tang. So the last icon, the tang went all the way to the end. There you go. It actually holds on with a magnet. Not so much. No, it wants to drop. Whereas this one does. So, again, Icon's playing a game of not running it all the way to the end. I'm guessing it goes to about here. It's short enough that it doesn't get enough, it doesn't get close enough to the end to put a magnet on. So, that's wasted space. Granted, it's not too much, but I prefer for that to come almost all the way to the end here for added stability as you're utilizing this ratchet. It appears to be thinner through the handle here, the newer gen. That may translate into a little bit of flex. Also, the tines or the forks themselves here are going to be narrower, just so slightly. They actually might be the same at the neck. We'll double check that and measure it. But real quick, let's get to the handle. Again, you're going to have This rubber overmold, it says it's going to be better at resisting oil. It is a little more tacky than this one is. This one's a little bit harder. And I do like that they have ergonomics to this. I mentioned this in my last video too. One, it's got a little bit better ergonomics for your hand. You can kind of feel it. And especially on the bottom side, they give you a flat profile. And it's very easy to recognize where you're at on the ratchet. Because there's plenty of jobs where you have something that you're trying to get up into and put the ratchet on. And you know, at least from where you're sitting, where the face of that fastener is going to be. But as you put your hand up there, if you have the older generation, you don't have a way of telling where you're at. You have to find yourself pulling back down to see, okay, am I straight, am I not? And there's no way of knowing where you're at easily with this style handle. You can't tell your orientation. Whereas this one, if you have it in your hand, at any given time, you could tell exactly where that flat spot is, rotate back around to it, and you know you're there. So that works out perfect. I like that. I like that they did that. I would like to see a little bit more grip to this. They do have a little bit here. That's worthless, honestly. They have a little bit here. If you notice here that it actually got this kind of diamond crosshatch is not a relief inwards. It actually is external. It comes outwards. I like that because it makes for easy cleanup. But I wish they would run it across the inside of this handle because that give you one more tactile ability to feel where you're at. But two, I feel like when you're holding onto one of these ratchets, you're not going to necessarily need force this way because you have the hourglass holding you there. You're going to have to get enough grip. I think you're going to want it more so on the inside to keep your fingers held tight as you're holding onto it. So I'd like to see them make a change to that, to this design, to improve it there. Overall teeth, again, it's 80 teeth. It feels good. It can lock up. It just did it right there. I'll say this, and then the 1/4 inch did the same thing. It isn't the best locking up feature because that pawl allows you to kind of get in between if you really want to, if you really miss it. Yeah, right there. You could, but it pops back out. It's not too bad, but it's not as definitive as this one. This one does a better job. Yeah, it's very positive. There's no, yeah, it doesn't want to stay in the middle. Yeah, this one does a better job picking its direction. There's more friction on the Gen 1. I was hoping that 90 teeth would work. I think it's that pawl design. I think it's a little bit softer in the spring, which allows it to just flow. Let me go ahead and tie these up together, and we'll see which one spins better. All right, so we got them together here. Let's go ahead and just give them a spin. I want to see, and I'm going to do my best to let you guys try to see as we spin it. Last video was a little more difficult. Sorry, these are really long handles. Let me just go ahead and tilt them up. Yeah, everything so far is going directly for this one. This one's not even turning. So definitely less back drag on the Gen 2. So they've improved that, and I think that's great because I didn't have any gripes with the 90 tooth. That was actually pretty decent, especially the ones that I have that are new, more worn in. This one's a fresh one. They wear in pretty quick, and guys will cut the springs on them too. I don't know how I feel about that long-term cutting the springs, but I think this is a great one right out of the box. It's got a really good back drag. Okay, let's go ahead next, and we're just going to go and let's measure it here first. Let's see what overall measurements come at for these guys. Okay, so overall head measurement width comes in at 30.07. .33, so 3, almost 4 millimeters wider than the thickness. 14.89. 13.9, so full millimeter thinner in that profile. Let's do the width right here. because this is going to be the part that's going to be the most susceptible to breaking, other than the tang. We'll say 10 millimeters roughly versus 10.14. Those are almost dead on. So note to self, you could swap those heads out if need be. That'd fit inside that dimension. Now the width overall between the tangs is going to come in at 22.5 versus 22.15. So a little bit thicker cross-sectional wise. I was actually surprised. I thought this one was going to be a little bit thicker. Now this is going to be a part where, as you're putting a lot of force on it, is it going to flex? 12.78. 12.29. So they did give up a little bit of diameter across the handle here. So push comes to shove, you will, I mean, unless the metallurgy is a little bit better in this one, you're going to feel the deflection a little bit more in the newer version versus the old. So I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, it's going to make it a little bit lighter, but I think I'd prefer to have a slightly thicker handle. Let's also measure from front to back on the anvil, because this will tell you how deep it is overall. 25.46 on Gen 2. 27.26. So almost 2 millimeters fatter on the older Gen 1. Let's also do a test as far as how well this sits fastener-wise. Let's pull up. I'm going to pull up a couple sockets, and we'll see how well they sit down on there, because I have a feeling this is going to be low profile like the 1/4 inch drive. Okay, so let's put these on. Okay, so as you guys are looking there, it's not as dramatic in this one as it was in the 1/4 inch drive, but it does sit a little bit shallower on the head as opposed to the Gen 1. Now let's check flex too. I want to see how, as far as deflection, that we're going to see. I'm going to give this a good tug. So there's a little bit of flex on the anvil. We'll do this guy as well. Let's check a little bit of in play. That's tight. Not going anywhere. As far as neck play, you can see this. Again, a little bit there, not perfectly locked up, but that mechanism is going to have some play in it, so that's to be expected. And then this one. I mean, both these anvils are tight. This one's got a little bit of play. I think this one's going to be a little bit better. Yeah, just ever so slightly better on this one, but not by much. I wouldn't say it'd be a noticeable difference. Okay, so we've done that. Let's go ahead and tear it apart. Let's see what the pawl design looks like in the anvil and see how good it's put together. So we've got these screws taken out of here. You guys can see what is the Gen 2 versus the Gen 1. There's a significant difference, and so keep that in mind, guys. This is what's holding your ratchet together, are these screws. Now again, look at the use of Loctite. Excessive, but luckily I was able to get it out, and luckily it's a larger. I think we were looking at difference-wise, the Gen 1 comes in with a T8, and then for Gen 2 it's going to be a T10 screw. So much better to try to service a T10 than a T8. And we'll look at here inspection plates too. I want to see those side by side, but let's crack it open. Let's take a look. Okay, so there's your inspection plates. You have the recess here. That's going to be probably for that seal. I imagine this has that seal on it as well. And then as far as thickness, these might be pretty close. So Gen 1 comes in at 2.23. Gen 2, 2.14. So a little bit thicker on Gen 1, so I'll give them a slight advantage, although they have the smaller screws, which just really are not that great. Okay, so you can see the pole design here, how it is different. You can see the anvils as well, completely redesigned. Like, there's nothing that's copied over between the two or reused. Now, looking, and I've done a thorough review. I don't know if we're going to go dive so much into the Gen 1 for you guys, but we'll go ahead and show you here on Gen 2. Here is your seal. It's going to be rubber seal. It's not an O-ring. This is going to be a seal, and it's going to be kind of interesting too. It's got ridges in it. I initially thought it was squeezed that way, but I think they designed it to be multi-textured. So it rides in there. Yeah. Interesting how they did that. No O-ring, they just did this rubber seal. I mean, as long as it works, that's all that really matters. Okay, so let's pull this apart here for you guys. Take a look at the anvil. Looks good. I like that they have the larger circumference on the head back here, because that's going to ride inside the base of the head of the ratchet. And that's going to allow it to have that much more surface area to take that pressure as you start to put a sideways load on this. Because not all loads are going to be perfectly parallel with the teeth. You're going to be putting a load on the end. And you don't want this to be able to transfer that load evenly across the back of that wall there. So here is the pawl. And I have a feeling the split pawl is meaning that it's not one continuous pawl. Because if you look at this guy, there you go, you can see it is one continuous pawl all the way across. And I think that's what they mean with that, is it's going to allow it to transfer and rock from one side to the other, like so. It's going to kind of dance on there and allow it to engage. So I think with their studying, they probably found that that works a little bit better. I will say material-wise, let's see how much they weigh difference. This is going to be the old one. Comes in at 4 grams. And the new one comes in at 2. It was bouncing between 2 and 3. So lighter weight. And you may be asking yourself, well, why does that matter? Well, that weight is going to find itself slowing down the actual action inside as the ratchet goes around. So they took material off, shortened it, and I mean, the important thing is you still get some engagement. But let's put them side by side. I mean, it's just ever so slightly bigger with Gen 1 versus Gen 2. But you get bigger teeth here to grab, and I think that offsets it. But physical weight-wise, I think you're gaining back, because this is able to ratchet quicker, smoother. It's not... The physical weight actually works against it when you're doing fast actions, because this is going to want to fight itself coming back to its original position and then re-engaging. So that is an improvement. And I mentioned that a long time ago in one of my other videos, that this pawl actually changed between the first ones I got and the second ones I got. It actually got larger and heavier, and I think people were having problems with it when it got heavier. There is a fatter version of this snidey tooth, and I think they learned their lesson to make it small and as light as possible. So that is really cool to see. Now, as far as action inside here, we'll go ahead and pop this out. I think this is a shim to help with the installation of it. It just makes it easier, I think. And then you take this, flip it around backwards. I'm not going to pull out the spring inside there, but this is just going to show you guys that there's your O-ring. So it is sealed. It seals in the head, and that's a good thing. It's going to help keep it lubed on the inside, keep grease and dirt out, and just overall extend the life of it. Now, this is actually, I mean, pretty nicely done. It's a good casting, it looks like. Okay. Slip that back in, like so. I don't like that it has a little bit of play in there. That could be a little bit tighter, but it is what it is at this point. Let's do the overall diameter of the anvil. It's coming at 23.24 versus 22.38. So definitely larger in the head. And here's what I was talking about a second ago too. Notice on the back side of this that there is no additional ridge to help keep this from side loading. It just sits flat inside the head. That is a poor technique. Right, here's the one that has it available, has that recess available in there to help keep it to track. And here they are side to side. Here's worth looking at the material, because this head's narrower. And you can see they took out the meat in the head just a little bit to allow for that larger anvil to fit inside there. And this is showing, I'm actually very happy. This is showing that they've learned their lessons. They've learned how to, so you can see how about that teeth engagement. It's going to have wider teeth engagement on the Gen 1. And if you watched from my previous videos, not that the flex heads have had a problem with this. I think they still managed to get these to work right. But on the Gen 1s that aren't the flex heads, the traditional handles, they were having issues with, because they were putting shims in them, and then they stopped putting shims in them. But they were having issues as you would side load the ratchet, like so, right? So you're on something, you side load like this, and you go to turn, it would just click, 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 and then bind and stop. It was garbage. They had nothing but problems with it, and a lot of people had the same problem I did. And I hope that they saw that, learned their lesson, and they created this detent inside here to help facilitate a better working head that's going to last you a heck of a lot longer and not cause you problems. And essentially skipping, I think that actually contributed to skipping on the Gen 1s and people completely wiping out the pawl and the anvil, because as soon as you side load that, the teeth can no longer grip and it just eats them right up. So I have actually really good hopes for this design. I think, oh sorry, wrong one, this is Gen 1. Gen 2, I have really good hopes and expectations for this. Now, oil-wise, they are on the low side for this one. My 1/4 inch had plenty of oil. This one is lacking oil. So that does not make me happy. I wish they'd do a better job of that. But I'm going to go ahead and add my own oil. I would recommend, I don't necessarily care for royal purple whatsoever, but I do think you should run a thin oil. This is a nice thin synthetic. Run a synthetic oil inside there. It's gonna last a lot longer. It's a lot better for all the seals. It's a lot better for all the components. Run a thin oil and just add a couple drops. You don't need a whole lot to make it work, and it'll work great. If you run a grease, it's gonna lock up the pawl and it's not gonna spin. Trust me, been there, done that. Anything over 72 teeth, and you're gonna ask yourself for problems. So run a thin oil inside there. Now I want to share something with you that I've noticed with Harbor Freight over the decades of purchasing items from Harbor Freight, because some of you guys are probably sitting on the fence and you're saying, should I buy these? Are they going to change them? Are they going to get better? What should I do? The price is going to come down. And I'll tell you two things I've learned from Harbor Freight over the years is, first with pricing, if something catches on and it works good, pricing goes up. So I imagine pricing is going to go up on these ratchets relatively soon. I hope it doesn't. I hope it comes down, but odds are they've made enough improvements to this that it, in my book, is worth the price that you pay for it. Now, pricing-wise, we'll touch that in just a second. The second thing I noticed with Harbor Freight is when they first come out with their new ratchets, new drivers, new tools, anything, it is the first iteration that is actually worth your time. That is because they are there quality control, doing the quality control to make sure that the first ones come out correctly, because you can't have a failed launch. If you have a failed launch, then all of it goes bad. They had that happen once with the first flex heads of Gen 1s. You guys remember that years ago, where they had to wipe out a whole slew of them because they actually build a ton of these before they ship out, and they got to make sure that they're right the first time. The problem is they don't manufacture these themselves. So they have a factory in Taiwan that makes these. And guess what? That factory in Taiwan is constantly trying to stay profitable. And so they will start to cut corners as time goes on. The bad side is these ratchets that sell for the same price or even more are actually getting worse and worse and worse and worse. The machine is getting worse. They're forgetting the crush washers, which was in my other one, my first gen, that then was later missing, and then they had those subsequent problems. I've seen it multiple times with multiple tools that Harbor Freight puts out there. Get the first iteration. It's going to be the best one. Most of the time, yes, they do make some improvements down the line, but they usually don't. Harbor Freight usually just comes out with a whole nother line or a whole nother name, and they do a whole revamp. But your best bet is to get the first iteration. So that being said, if you are interested in these flex head ratchets, I would say get the first iteration, because unless there's a major problem, they're not going to change it, and it's only going to get worse with time. Okay, that being said, on this ratchet, now you're asking yourself, what is the price going to be for these? Well, the first gen, if you try to buy it right now, is $54.99. So $55 for the first gen. For the second gen, locking, it is $69.99. So $70. 55 versus 70. That's $15 difference between these two ratchets. For me, it is a no-brainer. They have gone more aggressive with this price on the 3/8 than they have with the 1/4 inch, and most definitely with a 1/2 inch. I won't tell you the 1/2 inch price because I need to do that video, and sorry, we're probably not going to hit it in this one because there's a lot I want to do on the 1/2 inch as well. But just know, only $15. There's $20 difference for this one, and that's not much difference. I think, and this is going to be the advantage to you guys who are getting here first, I think they're trying to get the 3/8 because that's the most popular drive that we use, guys. I think they're trying to get this one sold as much as possible, get the word out there, and then they're going to go ahead and bump that price up. That's my thoughts. They may not, who knows, but the best price, hands down, of all of the locking flex head ratchets is the 3/8. So keep that in mind. All right, guys. Hopefully I've gone through a lot of stuff I wanted to cover on this. I think I've touched all the bases. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. What do you think of the Gen 1? What do you think of the Gen 2? Is the quality there? Do you guys notice it? Or do you feel like it's not worth your time and you want to hold off? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. So I think that's going to wrap it up for me on this. I've touched everything that's going to be important on it. And the next video, I apologize. The next video is going to be the 1/2 inch. I'm going to compare it versus the Gen 1. But I'm also going to take it, and if you guys maybe saw my other video, I'm going to compare it to the Frankenstein that I did about 6-8 months ago. So hang tight for that, because I want to see how it feels and works in comparison to that other model. All right, guys. Thanks again for watching. Please stay tuned for round 3.